What's good, y'all? It's the one and only King Cow 516 live in the mix. You know what time it is. It's time for that Switch Flames podcast. You heard me? This is just a response to last night's game one of the NBA Finals, where the Phoenix Suns took care of some business, defeating the Milwaukee Bucks 118 to 105. You know, we're going to get into some of the highlights there. But before we do that, make sure you guys check out our website at www.switchflames.com, and make sure you add us on Twitter at switchflames. Holler at us, you know what I mean. Make sure you show your support. But yeah, last night was definitely a good showing by the Phoenix Suns. They came in and handled business. It was a very good game in the beginning, but you know, as the game progressed, obviously Phoenix took over. And one of the main things I get from that first game, you know, and I'm definitely happy to see Giannis play. But even with Giannis playing, what I'm seeing is, man, the Bucks gonna have to figure out something when it comes to the pick and roll. You know, the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul, he's the mastermind of the pick and roll, and it just looked like the Bucks were trying everything to stop it, and they couldn't stop the pick and roll. So if the Suns are gonna hit shots like that, and the Bucks are going to continue having a hard time dealing with that pick and roll, they will not beat the Phoenix Suns. I just don't see it. Now, one thing I would say about the Bucks, their advantages, they're big. You know, they got to play big, and they weren't hitting shots. So I'm pretty sure the Bucks are going to bounce back. They're going to find ways to bounce back. But right now, I'm giving a slight edge to the Suns off of what I've seen from game one. And Chris Paul, he was a beast. You know, you kind of get the idea. You know, I'm really feeling like Chris Paul understands the moment, and he probably is starting to realize this is maybe his only chance. And so, you know, Chris Paul is coming to play. I like that. I like seeing CP. I like seeing this CP3 that's aggressive offensively. You know, we know that he can play make. He can set other guys up. We know he can score. But, man, he's making a priority about scoring. And I love seeing this kind of Chris Paul. You know what I mean? Stat line, Chris Paul, 32 points, 9 assists. You know what I mean? So, you know, Chris Paul, 32 points, you know. And like I said, I like seeing this aggressive Chris Paul. And they could not stop him in the pick and roll. They could not stop him. Devin Booker drops a 27 point, 6 assist night. DeAndre Ayton dropped a 22 point, 19 rebounds. Man, he was dominating the boards. And I actually thought that in this series with the Bucks having Giannis and having Brook Lopez, you know, that kind of twin tower combination might give problems for Ayton, but not in game one. Not in game one. DeAndre Ayton has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. This playoff is not a fluke. Chris Paul has definitely helped DeAndre Ayton get to another level. And the big man is saying, I am here to stay. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. Shout out to DeAndre Ayton, man. I like seeing that. I like seeing where when these guys come into the NBA, you start seeing progression. And, you know, I was reading, you know, something the other day about what DeAndre Ayton said about Chris Paul. And he said Chris Paul is one of the best things to happen to his career. So he gives a lot of credit to Chris Paul of pushing him to the next level. You know what I mean? So that's good to see. And also Mikal Bridges, you know what I mean? He dropped 14 points. So, you know, the starters in the Phoenix Suns lineup, you know what I mean? They took care of business. They took care of business. So shout out to the Phoenix Suns, man. They showed up in game one. They're on their home court, so they did what they were supposed to do. You know what I mean? They took care of business, and they protected their home court. You know what I mean? So the Bucks are going to have some work to do, and wanted to come back. You know what I mean? From this one, the Bucks have a lot of work to do. You know, and just off the Phoenix bench too. You know what I mean? It was basically the starters who handled the business scoring wise, but you know, Cameron Payne and Cam Johnson off the bench both came in and gave 10 points. So that's 20 points off the bench. So that was good. You know what I mean? For the Bucks stat line, you know, Giannis came through with the 20-pointer. 20-point night with 17 rebounds. Brook Lopez came with 17 points, 6 rebounds. And he's going to have to continue being aggressive. And so, you know, they got some production from the bigs. Don't get me wrong. But they're going to have to dominate more. Chris Middleton, he dropped the 29-point, 7 rebound game. So Chris Middleton led their team in scoring. You know, Drew Holiday had 10 points. They're going to need definitely more from him. You know what I mean? So, you know, those are the main scoring factors of the of Milwaukee. But they're going to need more production out of Drew Holiday for sure. And the reason why I say they're going to definitely need more production out of Drew Holiday is for this reason. And this is the same thing. This is why I believe the Clippers had a little bit more success. And even though Devin Booker still produced, but Devin Booker had a bigger struggle against the Clippers than he did in this game one. Reason being, the Clippers have length and they have like strong wings, and they have different guys they can throw at him from the wing position that can make his life a little bit, you know, hectic. They didn't have Kawhi obviously in that series, but what they did have was Terrence Mann. They had Paul George. You know what I'm saying? Even Marcus Morris at some points in the game. Reggie Jackson. You know what I mean? They had different guys that, you know, Patrick Beverley. You know what I mean? They had different guys who had different skill sets of defending, you know, that they could throw at Devin Booker in particular and give him fits, and could even put pressure on Chris Paul. If you notice, a lot of times even in that Clippers series, that Chris Paul bringing up half court, and they'll pick him up by the half court line, putting pressure on him at half court. You know what I mean? And so Devin Booker did his thing against the Clippers, but he struggled against the Clippers. Like, he had to work hard for his points. And he was coming off picks. He was coming off his little screens. And it just seemed like he was in the flow of the offense. And I didn't really feel like he had a lot of resistance yesterday. So the Bucks are going to have to do a better job on putting pressure on those guys. And the thing, if you look at the Lakers series when the Suns went against the Lakers, the problem there, for the most part, was that the Lakers guards didn't put enough continuous pressure offensively on the Suns guards of Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Sometimes your greatest weapon is making those other guys work. You know what I mean? Once again, if you look at the Clippers series, Devin Booker was in foul trouble out of those games. Why? Because the Clippers also not only had wings that could defend, they also had players that can put the ball in the hoop. So you make those guys work. So you tire those guys out more because they have to work hard on the defensive end. So Drew Holiday, he's very crucial to the series, because if the Suns, two of their best players are guards, if Drew Holiday is not going to have 20-point games, there's no way the Bucks can win this series. They could get some games, but Drew Holiday, he's going to be very important. So they need Drew Holiday to have some 20-point games. If he can get a 30-point game in there, but he needs to be dropping at least 20, because you need to make Chris Paul, whoever's guarding you, Devin Booker, you need to make them work on the defensive end. You need to tire them out. You need to also potentially get those guys in foul trouble. You know what I mean? Get those guys off the court. You know what I mean? So that's something that, you know, the coaching staff of the Bucks, they're going to have to try to figure that out. You got to get these guys into foul trouble. And when I look at that Lakers series with the Suns, you know, Schroeder, once Anthony Davis went down, Schroeder disappeared. When Anthony Davis went down, Schroeder needed to show up more. That was the only way the Lakers were going to have a chance, because you're playing a position that Chris Paul or Devin Booker are going to be guarding you. And you can't go game 5 and go like, what, Schroeder went like 0 for 9 in game 5? You can't do that, because you're supposed to be the best guard on the Lakers. And if you ain't putting no pressure on them, then yeah, it's especially a guy like Devin Booker, it's going to be easy for him. If he's not exerting that energy on defense, like a lot of pressure on defense, then guess what? He's going to have a lot more energy on offense to run around those screens. And then with that energy, you know what I'm saying, he's not going to be short on those shots. So you got to make those guys work. You got to make those guys, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, work harder. Chris Paul was just in his bag, man. Chris Paul was at home. Easy peasy, easy does it. Just making it look easy. We know how phenomenal Chris Paul is. But you got to find a way to put pressure. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm the Bucks, I'll incorporate some of the things I saw in previous series. You know, maybe you don't get Chris Paul 94 feet, but as soon as you cross the half court, start putting that pressure on him. You got Drew Holiday. He's a good defender. He's more than capable of doing that. Get more pressure up Chris Paul from the start. Make it harder for him to get into that pick and roll to begin with. You know what I mean? You know, because by the time he starts setting up the offense, if you could get it where it's late in the shot clock, by the time he's trying to initiate that pick and roll, I know that's easier said than done, but that's what you got to do. You got to put pressure on these guys. Got to put pressure on these guys. So, you know what I mean? You got to get, and if you're the Bucks, even if you can get Booker in a pick and roll, pick on Booker. He's not the greatest defender in the world. You know what I mean? He's an all right defender. Get him in the pick and roll. Force him to play more defense on the ball. You know what I mean? You got to do some bold things like that, because you got to tire these guys out. You got to get these guys in foul trouble. You know what I mean? Because if you can get either Chris Paul or Devin Booker out the game for majority of the game, you're just heightening the chance of you having a better chance. You know what I mean? So another thing about the Suns, I'm going to give them the coaching edge in the series too, because I think Monty Williams is going to outcoach Budenholzer. So, I think the Suns have an advantage there as well. Doesn't mean the Bucks can't win this series, but they're going to have the work cut out for them. They've been very resilient, and so, you know what I mean? All they have to do is try to win one of these games, so they're going to have to try to win game 2. But even if they go down 0-2, as long as you have Giannis healthy, you still got a shot to win the series. But if I'm the Bucks, I under no circumstance want to go in the finals 0-2. That's a lot of pressure. As far as Giannis looked good. You know what I mean? I still think you could tell there's a little bit of him being hindered by the injury, but he seems like he's going to be serviceable enough as long as he doesn't re-aggravate it somehow. He looks like he's going to be serviceable in the series. He looks like he's going to be able to be at least 80-85% of Giannis, and that gives you a shot. That's all you can ask for. You know what I mean? And so the Bucks got their work cut out for them, but all is not lost. They are more than capable of beating the Phoenix Suns. But they're definitely going to have to play better than what they did in Game 1. By all means. You know what I mean? And so, Game 1 in the books. The Phoenix Suns once again defeat the Milwaukee Bucks 118-105. Make sure you guys support the channel. You know what I mean? Make sure you give your feedback in the comments, what you think needs to happen. Also, I want to hear, who do you guys think is going to win the series? And you can also put down who you think is going to be Finals MVP. Obviously, after one game, Chris Paul hands down is the Finals MVP. But it's only one game. It's the best of 7 series. So we got a lot more basketball to play. The next game will be on Thursday. That's tomorrow night. And so we'll have a recap of that as well. You know what I mean? But with that said, it's your boy, the one and only King Cal 516, live in the mix. Signing off. This is the Swiss Flame Podcast. Make sure you hit us up at the website, www.swissflames.com. Hit us up at Twitter, @SwissFlames. If you feel so inclined to send a donation, hit us up on Cashapp, $KingCal516. We want to thank you guys once again for the support. Definitely appreciate each and every one of you. Until then, catch y'all later. Peace.